The first Pokemon ROM hack that I ever played for myself was Double Emerald, which I played just a few months ago. And at the start of this game, it didn't exactly blow me away. You pick your Hoenn starters, and you also get an Eevee. And the premise of the game is every battle is a double battle. There's some changes to Pokemon you can find in the wild, and the gym leaders have different moves too, but that's really the only thing the game changes. And as I was plodding through the first couple gyms, I fought some trainers and found that they were double battles, but they weren't all that much different from their normal. They weren't any harder than trainers were normally in Emerald. And I got to Mauville City, but other than the new wild encounters and gym battles, Double Emerald is essentially identical to Base Emerald in its progression story and gym battles. Double Emerald is essentially identical to Base Emerald in its progression story, and there really isn't anything. I can beat most random trainers without much trouble. I'm checking every route to catch as many Pokemon as I can just to keep my options open. If you're looking to find this ROM hack, it's Double Emerald, and you can find the link to it on the Poke Community forums. That's where you can find the download page, and you can also find a list of all the changes the game has, as well as the 2 patches you can use to play the game. You can either play the version that uses the normal Hoenn dex, or you can play a 386 version which uses every Pokemon from the first 3 generations. Besides that, it has a few pretty basic changes for Pokemon ROM hacks. Things like unlimited use TMs, and a lot of the movesets look a lot more like recent generations rather than Gen 3. You can buy strong TMs in just the first city, like Thunderbolt and Scald. Actually, there's this pretty neat change that the hack made where in every mart you can buy Sacred Ash, which is the item that's unique to Ho-Oh, and Sacred Ash will max revive every Pokemon on your team, but you can't use it in battle. And when I realized that this was the only revival item you had, I thought, I mean, you can find a few revives in the field, which I assume are in places where they normally were, but for the most part, all you have is these Sacred Ash, which will only allow you to revive Pokemon in the field, so you can't use them in battle. And that was an interesting change in difficulty for the game. The other thing is you can find all the legendaries of the first 3 generations, and a couple of them are placed in pretty conspicuously. There's a shrine you can find in the Petalburg Woods for Celebi. You can just check it and run into Celebi after you get the first gym badge. But most of the legendaries will flee or be gone if you fail to catch them on the first visit, so you kind of have to watch out if you're actually looking to catch these legendaries. They could be anywhere. I mean, they're in a set location, but like, you check the power plant generator in New Mauville, and that's where you find Raikou. There's in the fiery path between Fall Arbor and Mauville, there's a Pokeball you can get behind a strength puzzle, and if you check that Pokeball, you get Entei. So some of them are placed in seemingly random locations. The only one that I could find that would challenge it to a battle again, but Zapdos seems to be the exception. What about some other fights in the game that are a challenge? Maxie and Tabitha are a couple of goofballs you have to fight on Mount Chimney, and they're normally pushovers, but Tabitha stomped me, my whole team, because I wasn't prepared for him. Didn't think he'd be a challenge. He has a whole team. You just go up there with some critters that take out fire types and have your team leveled properly. He won't be much of an issue. Flannery and Winona seem to me like they could be pretty easy if you just fill your team with more Pokemon that have an advantage against their type. But in between them is the next big difficulty spike. It's Norman. Leads with Spore, Smeargle, and Slacking. The team includes Blissey, a Zangoose with Swords Dance, Porygon 2, Snorlax in the back. Might actually be the hardest trainer I had to fight in the game. Took me the longest to figure out how to beat him. Have a fighting type or two. Have a steel or rock type. And look out because his team has tons of coverage. Slacking has Fire Punch. And Blissey has Toxic. And Zangoose has Close Combat. And Porygon 2 has all the moves it wants, and Snorlax has a Crunch and Earthquake, so a pretty diverse set of moves on his team. Liza and Tate posed a bit of a threat for me with their slightly stronger psychic team, but the thing that really got me in their fight was Latias, which has Healing Wish, and then it immediately entered the field and fainted, which Healing Wish will bring in the next Pokemon at full health. And luckily for me, all I had left was Latios, which was spamming Draco Meteor at me, but it was better than if it could have brought in a weakened Pokemon in order to heal it. There's a few more trainers you might have a bit more trouble with. Team Aqua trainers like Shelly are a bit more of a threat when you fight them in the Weather Institute in the Seafloor Cavern. Archie has a rain team when you fight him, but it's with Rain Dance rather than Drizzle. You fight Maxie and Tabitha again in the Magma Hideout. I think both team leaders have Groudon and Kyogre. Stronger, but not unmanageable as long as you have a decent team. Juan, the 8th gym leader, seems to be a bit more of an ice trainer, like a mix of ice and water. And then you get to Victory Road and you fight Wally, who I think has the exact same team as he does in Emerald originally. And there's one neat touch or detail they have for trainers in Victory Road. Every trainer has a team based on a character from Pokemon Coliseum or XD Gale of Darkness. It definitely made them a lot stronger. So I entered the Elite Four and I tried to fight Sydney, and his team led with Tyranitar and he was at level 70. So I got scared. I had to go back to the drawing board to figure out my team for the last fight. And I found Meditite on Mount Pyre, which is where you can find it in Ruby Sapphire, but you can't find Meditite at all in Emerald. So I picked it up, and Medicham might just need Bulk Up and High Jump Kick to take out half the Elite Four, but it also had Ice Punch and Zen Headbutt. So I made that its moveset, made Medicham the final addition to the team alongside my starters. I have Sceptile with Leaf Blade and Leaf Storm. I have Flareon, which is going to Flare Blitz everything that moves and charm all the rest. I have Pelipper, which has been a champion throughout the entire game, using Tailwind or whatever water stab you can get to speed up the whole team. And I've never given a second thought to Pelipper, so this was fun. Lastly is the star of the team. It's Plusle and Minun, having their abilities that boost each other's special attack, making them feel especially strong in this game, throwing out two at the same time, and then just blasting through enemies with electric attacks until one is weak and withdraw it, and then they both have some status moves in case they're fighting alongside another team member. So I fought the Elite Four, and Medicham cleaved through half of them. The first three E4 of Sydney, Phoebe, and Glacia have Regirock, Steel, and Ice respectively. Our fourth one is Drake, and he has a team of his usual strong dragons in addition to Dragonite and a big strong Ray Q. So I had to retry his fight once, but I think I was more accustomed to the game at this point because it was still easier than someone like Norman. And then I fought Wallace, the champion, and he had Kyogre and Suicune and Kabutops and other water types, and I didn't care. I beat his team pretty easily, and that was Double Emerald. Despite not being quite as dramatic of a change to Emerald as I initially expected, this game was exactly what I wanted in the end. I wanted a Pokemon game that let me try out more double battle strategies. I loved Coliseum on the GameCube, and it made me wish I had a full series game to try out all the double battles. And the game gave me multiple opportunities, Tailwind, and having Plusle and Minun on the team, pairing the right partner Pokemon together, an Earthquake user with a flying type. And I think this was a great first Pokemon ROM hack for me to try. It was a small change to Emerald that gave me a new way to play the game without being too different from what Pokemon Emerald is or what I expect it to be. I could definitely recommend this game to anybody who wants some more double battles in a Pokemon game without going right into the VGC scene. Although there is another hack called Double Spire Red, and maybe I'll check that out too. I have a few more miscellaneous comments left about the game. The page with the download of the game lists a few bugs, but it didn't mention what happens with Stealth Rock. If a player sets it up, both sides of the fight will be affected. That's regardless of who sets Stealth Rock. So if you set it up, your party will be affected by Stealth Rock as they enter the field. And since Norman Smeargle has Stealth Rock, his team might get affected by it too. That's not how it's supposed to work. There are a few extra Wynot or Wobbuffet you might run into in random trainer battles in the game, besides the ones that are normally there in the game, which is one at the top of Mount Pyre and one in Moss Deep Gym. The interviewers Gabby and Ty have one in their battles north and east of Mauville City, as well as east of Fortree. And there's also a trainer with the Wobbuffet in Victory Road. Okay, you're familiar with Rare Candies cheat, right? Use it. If I hadn't been able to level up so many Pokemon to fit the right team and change strategies whenever I wanted to, I wouldn't have finished the game. For this being the first Pokemon ROM hack I've played, I wanted to give it a difficulty rating, and I'm going to call it a 3 out of 5. Most of the random trainers you come across aren't much trouble, with a few exceptions here and there, but for important battles, I would say Watson and Norman are standouts. You could also struggle with anybody in the Elite Four, as well as even some of the rival fights, since the rival is definitely a stronger team. And I think most of the gym leaders could pose a threat if you weren't prepared enough. But it's really all about Watson and Norman. And because the game is all double battles, which can be more challenging than single battles, I'm going to rate it a little bit more difficult. So, yeah, like I said, 3 out of 5 is my rating. I may change or revise that difficulty rating as I encounter more Pokemon ROM hacks and get a better idea of what I would consider to be difficult Pokemon games in the fan game scene.